today we are going to be talking about what's alive, and of course, being in the transit of the sensual, synchronicities usually happen. And what's kind of come up is this idea of the sacred wound and the space within the body that stores and holds and is this portal to this primal wounding that we all carry as human beings. And I know that if you're in the Gene Key community, you know that Richard's running his Pearl sequence retreat. And it's been a long time coming. Everybody's super excited about it. And before you enter into this sequence, right, the Pearl is everything that's in blue in your Gene Key profile. Before you go into this sequence, you're met with this interesting sphere that is both your wound and your highest vocation. It's almost like Chiron, that wounded healer, right? Where it's like you find that wound and it becomes your greatest ally and resource and asset. It's the same thing. And every time people come to us and want a reading, there's always this sense of get to the juicy stuff. How can I express my genius in the world? What's my purpose? What's my mission? What am I supposed to be doing? And a lot of people get really excited about that because there's a lot of potential for prosperity and for impact and for like serving the world. And they just want to get there. And so we have this sphere in the Gene Keys, and we call it the core when you're inside the Venus sequence, and it's called the vocation when you're in the Pearl sequence. But the interesting part about the sphere is that it's not about healing your wound as much as it is about embracing it, accepting it, and like you're acting and responding to it, but you're not reacting to it. And so when you can feel and sense your wholeness without feeling like you need to heal this wound, you can live life with this gaping wound. And it's not that there's anything wrong with you. It's not that you have to like heal it. It's that it reminds us of our humanity, and it links us to the earth and to the collective. And so it's something that we all carry and that we're also all connected with. And that wound, when we're able to not overcome it, but embrace it and work with it, we learn and become so resourceful because it's constant. Life is constantly meeting us at that wound. And so we're able to transform and bring out some of our own light through that wound. And we can bring our light through that wound, and it can come out as reaction and shadow, and we fall into that pattern. But the more and more we have awareness, we begin to work with that wound and we begin to marry with it. And it's in that marrying and merging with the wound that sacred union kind of is possible and happens. And we bring this wholeness to the world, and through altruism and knowing I'm whole, I'm healed, I don't need anything from you. I don't need you to help me heal my wounds. You get to offer your highest service to the world. And it's kind of a cool thing, but a lot of people like jump past it, or I just feel so much bypassing in like the SQ core area. And it's because we get super excited. And this comes from personal experience too. We get super excited with the Pearl sequence. You're like, oh, what's in here? What's unlocking here? And yeah, I mean, how would you describe this, or how would you come in and talk about this sacred wound?
And this is the place I feel like we can work so much with a Pearl, and we can do so many things, but we always come back to this pathway of realization between the wound and the SQ, and this inner Venus and Mars, those inner Venus and Mars dynamics. It's always there because that's what we are made up of. And today I almost feel like I'm not having the words to really speak about it, but it's what I do feel is that I can't speak about the core without speaking about the SQ, because that is the deepest imprinting that comes from when we are floating in our mother's waters, and then in our first years, those cellular imprints, where there can be this kind of disharmony between the masculine and the feminine. And also, I believe it's much because how many of us really were born into a family where there was beautiful harmony between our mom and our dad, which are kind of those examples of feminine and masculine. And I feel like now we are on the cusp of going into the Libra season, where there is harmony. But I feel like this is not something that we don't really have that imprint in our bodies. We don't really remember what harmony is. But what I do believe that where the core wound is pointing us, it is to create it on the inside. So like going into your own SQ, going into your own core, this is your path of realization that comes from you finding that balance and harmony inside of yourself. So you're going to have to look deep at your wounding. You're going to have to look deep at your conditioning, especially what you were born into without any walls up, when you're a baby, the first 7 years. You're going to have to look deep into your heart, which is the SQ. So these 3 points, simplified, is what you have on that path of realization. And it's also kind of that portal into sacred union. Because if you haven't looked at your Mars and your Venus, how can you ever go deeper into that Venus, into that sacred union, into what we speak about in the Gene Keys as the stability sphere, the kind of lies behind that portal. And it's what you can relax into when you have that wholeness of being that's there and support your lives and was always there. But as long as you are in the dynamics of Venus and Mars and the immature masculine and feminine, you're never going to feel held by yourself or by existence.
I feel like this hole, not hole, but like this tear. Yeah. I feel like this tear coming from like the center of my chest up to like my throat. And I'm like just being present with it. I was like, this is very uncomfortable. And it almost feels like it's always there. And we just learn to live with it. Like people that live with chronic pain, you just learn to live with it. And it's almost like you're learning to ignore it. But as we're talking about it and I'm sensing into my body, I'm like, yeah, I can feel it come up to my throat. And so my wound, because we're talking about this core wound, my wound goes from my heart to my throat, and it impacts the way that I'm able to express. And it impacts everyone's ability to express, because we're going to feel that wounding as you're communicating, because it's like all your energy is moving through your body. And so it's touching everything. So it's impacted and imprinted in by the wound as well. So my core wound is the 53.5, which is immaturity and expansion and superabundance, and it's about beginnings. And so, yeah, I don't have anything to share on that, but that's my wounding right now, and that's what I'm feeling and sensing into is like, how is this related and impacting, my heart and then my ability to communicate. And yours is, Bella, what's yours?
Mine is 57. And as you were speaking, what came to me is, it's so sad, but what comes to me is, it's not worth it to be in sacred union if the world isn't in sacred union. Like that comes in like really, really strong. And I believe that is the misunderstanding of the 57, that unease. It looks at the world and it just feels like, it feels the fear of tomorrow, and it's not even worth it to live. It's not even worth it to be in the heart, because it kind of feels so impacted about like listening to what's outside. So that even more shows me that, coming back in and knowing that the sacred union is on the inside. And this is this is like in society and even if you read Cosmopolitan or whatever magazine, from you're very young, you're like, oh, this is how you find, the perfect partner. This is how you find the best. There are all these things from we are like 13 years old, basically, where we're going to find the right boyfriend, the right partner. And it's all about first being whole on the inside. And I think that the whole twin flame thing that was very much in the 80s and 90s, like with the new age, it came through. Yeah, we were attracting people based on that pathway of realization, the core and the SQ not being healed. And then we attracted somebody who could really come and, for you, Ashley, show you that 53 in the face, and maybe even what we have done in earlier years of our own relationships is like showing you that immaturity, showing you that part. And now what I feel is like, We are coming closer to 2027. We're coming closer to where sovereignty is even more important in the world for so many reasons. Like, we don't really have time to kind of play around with outer mirroring of what's not sacred union. It's like, it's really critical that we go to the inside and that we start to dare to look at those places of pain on the inside. And I shared a little bit in our call with Portals of Deconditioning before, that this weekend, like, I spent a whole day in bed and I was guided to go to all these places of the pain I don't want to feel. So exactly like you're showing with your throat, you're showing like this, like I had to do that with the pains of surgeries that I had where I didn't have anesthesia. You know, I had to go there, and then I had to go to the left side of my body, my feminine side that feels neglected. Then I had to go to my mom's pain, which has been what I always want to create health, so I don't have to feel what she feels. And at the end of the day, I felt that like a kind of soul initiation, but because as I was saying yes to whatever was there, it was reminding me of my aliveness, but it also brought me deeper, you know, to some kind of initiation of an energy that I can't usually feel when I'm bracing off from what I don't want to feel, what I perceive as pain or wounded.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're here and as you're watching this or watching the replay, I just invite you to, what is your wound? What is your core wound? I mean, specifically in the gene key profile, the core sphere. What is it? Speak it out, type it out, like put it out there, and you're putting your awareness and your focus on it now. And now I want you to like take a moment to feel into your body. We're in the right now, we're in the transit of the sensual, and this is all about the body. And there's something really visceral that can happen here. So find where that wound lives inside of you. I didn't know that mine goes up, like I always feel this freaking rip open in my heart. I'm like, is this growth? Is this like me trying to I don't even know. I can't even tell you. It's not logical. And I'm like, and it comes and it splits my throat chakra in half. Like I can tell, like there's so much split in half. I'm like ripping apart at my body because I can feel how deep it is. And that's how I know this is this core wound. Like I just want to like rip at my body right now. And I'm like, we're gonna get to this. So just invite, you know, your awareness and your breath to lead you towards, where is this wounding inside of you? Where does it hurt? Where are you feeling yourself pull apart? Where are you feeling this hole that doesn't want to close and won't close and doesn't need to? Where are you living? Where is the wound, the sacred wound that you're living with? That will become the sacred medicine that you will take for yourself to be able to live with it and to find delight and ecstasy in the fact that you're in pain and pleasure at the same time together. The sacred union is pain and pleasure at the same time. Like you're going to always have this wound, painful as it is, and the pleasure of, but I'm fucking in my body. I get to be here living life. And if part of what this agreement is to be here in this body is to take on a piece of humanity's suffering, I'll do that for the opportunity to live life and to wake up every morning and be present here and be present with the wound too, because this was your initiation into this world. You were in your mom's uterus and that's what you were swimming in because you had to travel through the wound. It's like your mom's birth canal is like the wound you were traveling through as well. So it is part of you, and it's what your body was formed in as well. So it is your DNA knows that we're going to keep this wound intact. This is what she or he is taking on for humanity. And this is what's going to be their greatest gift and offering to the world as well. It's what's going to fuel their outer work in the world. Yeah. Okay.
And this is the thing too, Ashley, you know, like I always say, we can never escape this. And I had that reminder this weekend again, you know, like I can be like, I've done the Venus work. I've done the Venus sequence 5 times or like whatever, how many, but this is part of being human. And like you're saying, it's part of transmuting that part of the mythic wound, the collective wound, you know, whatever you want to call it, that is there in the karma that we're all carrying. So that's why I feel, you know, going back to those parts that we can do through the gene keys, that we can do through the work we're doing with Unlock Your Design, that you can do with so many different like trauma work. I've studied with Thomas Hubel last year. Like it's just part of the spirals, and we're never done with it. And that's the beauty, and that's the humbleness too of being human, and of also doing the work that we are here to do, that grid work that I see that we're here to do together, in order for this grid to light up and this planet to be able to express itself in a higher frequency.
Okay, I'm gonna share something with you in the chart. So I spoke about my core. If you were to pull up your gene key on the Gene Key website, you can just look at the Venus, and when you pull up the Venus, this says core instead of vocation. And so mine is the 53.5, and Bella's is down here 57.4. That's hers. You can see mine is an older version, so hers has both colors because it is both. Right. And so what we wanted to offer us as support during this time is, back in January, when we were done with the Venus immersion that we created for our community, for Unlock Your Design community, we took people through the Venus sequence and did our own spice and flavor. After that was done, we went into Sacred Union. And this is something that Bella has been working with for a while. And when she would talk to Richard, Richard was like, you have to do this. This is what you need to bring to the world. Like he was actually like the one that was also encouraging and pushing her to like bring this out into the world, which it's not a sequence that Richard is talking about or is doing anything with. It was kind of something that under her investigation and work with herself that she kind of discovered. So before we went into Business by Design and the Pearl that we were going into in that journey, we went into Sacred Union, and we spent it was like 5 different weeks together. It was 5 weeks together exploring this aspect of Sacred Union. And the portal was through the core. It was through the core and through the SQ, but there was like this threading that was happening. Is there anything that you want to discuss or talk about like this Sacred Union?
The Sacred Union is always evolving, because we haven't been able to even recognize it in ourselves before. So when it came through for me, it came through like Venus as the feminine and Saturn as the masculine, because that's what we have there in the Venus sequence. We actually have Saturn like behind Venus. So it came in very simple, like the masculine and the feminine, but then it came in like deeper into the form, where Saturn is also part of that like deeper octave of like kind of the dark, like it's always evolving. And this is the thing with Sacred Union. Like I'm like, come on the train now, because Sacred Union, we're discovering it and remembering it in ourselves, and it's going to evolve. So the easy work kind of starts with becoming aware of feminine and masculine polarities, and see them in yourself and see them in the world, and track them back to your parents and see the immature and the mature expressions of masculine and feminine. But then we are speaking about the deeper soul level, where we actually are speaking about the polarities of soul and spirit and the Sacred Union between them, so it's a continuous discovery of us discovering more of ourselves and our wholeness. And that's for me what Sacred Union is. It's never done. It's always expanding.
Yeah. So basically we have within the academy, we have 2 courses that we put together. We have the Sacred Union that we were speaking about, where it was like 5 weeks together into this really intense immersion into Sacred Union. We went into the masculine, feminine polarities, a bit about the planetary geometry, like what Bella was talking about with Saturn and Mars, and we have Venus too. And then the archetypes as they come in, and integrating the shadow. So there's a lot of juiciness in there, and you can see there's a bunch of different, there's so many different things that we give access to as well. And this is an exploration. And the next time we do it, it's going to be different too. But when we were on the call today, we had somebody mention that when we went into like the heart wall or the pericardium of the heart, that exploration was really powerful for them. So we're offering this as like, if you've done the Venus work, if you've done the Venus sequence, we're doing this bundle where we have the core sphere, where we have a workbook, a 37-page workbook to bring you into the core sphere and investigate that within yourself and within your profile. I'll just give you a little. Yeah, so there's a lot. And then we have a teaching, And then we had this really awesome healing that Capucine, who was part of our Venus immersion, did with the core wound and the SQ. It was a meditation and a healing. And that one's included in that. Plus, we'll show what this looks like. This is the planetary and the racial wounds. So remember how we were talking about the collective wounds that you take on if the universe wants us to see it. I don't know, it's still loading, so maybe you don't get to see it. Oh, you do. Here it is. So here are the different planetary and racial wounds. We go into these, talk about them as well. So if you're, let me know what is your core wound. Is it a line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4? You'll see it here, 5 or 6. I'm a line 5 core wound of guilt. Bella's a line 4 of rejection. And so what we're doing is we're offering a bundle, the core sphere and sacred union. So we go through the teaching, you have a workbook, there's a meditation, there's a bunch of other things, and then also the whole exploration into sacred union. So if you're interested in this experience, because we're in the transit of the sensual, we're giving $46 off of that, and which is a pretty good discount. So I feel like the body wants to come in and say, I want to support you even more. I want this exploration for you. Because this came up during this transit of the sensual, the 46 archetype. So I feel like she's coming in and kind of wants to give you access to this and support. And we're just listening and responding to kind of what's coming up during the transit. So if you're interested in that, please comment and we'll give you a link to where you can purchase. And the code to get $46 off is Sacred Wound. Sacred Wound. And it's one word.
And I actually would like to call out men because I remember when we were doing this module on the sacred union, we were using the masculine archetypes for the archetype work. So the king and the lover and the magician. And there is something where I feel it's so powerful when men dare to do this work. And I've seen women, going into deeper layers and intimacy, but in the Tantra world, where there is kind of like more an equal number of women and men that do the work, there is something in the energy there that's so powerful. I love containers with just women, but for me, the Sacred Union course was very much made as well for men, and even using those archetypes of the masculine archetype, the Jungian archetypes, that are the masculine ones. And it works for women too, because it's about when you're working with your core and your SQ, you are starting to realize who you are and how you are here to penetrate the world. So when you work with those archetypes in the sacred union and you're starting to have that your fuel becoming you and how you penetrate the world. And that's exactly the stepping stone into the pearl sequence. So if you're thinking about doing the pearl sequence with a deep dive, for example, the way that we're going to do it with the official Gene Keys and the ambassadors in November, like this is really a cool stepping stone in order to prepare yourself. You can penetrate the world in the shadows of those archetypes, or you can learn what is it to be a lover, what is it to be a king, what is it to be a magician, like the higher frequencies. And that's where I feel, especially for men, that teaching is like really a powerful one. And I remember we had men in the course as well that like were just did testimonials for us about that as well.
And it's perfect timing. Like if you are doing the deep dive with Richard and that starts in November, you have enough time to spend a week in each of these things, because there is 5 modules in the Sacred Union, and then there's 5, and then there's 1 module in the core. So if you want to recap on the core and the Venus, it's like through our lens and our teaching style, and then obviously Sacred Union. So this is like the perfect segue to the pearl sequence in deep dive that Richard's doing. So if this is something that you are interested in doing, reach out to us, comment, and we'll give you the link to that. Again, the code is Sacred Wound, and that'll get you $46 off this combo. So, and
it's a self-study that you'll have forever. So it's also something that you can start it, you can feel into it. Sometimes the core, it's not like our timing, it's like its own timing. So just know as well that it's something you will have access to if you get it forever, and it's your own, it's self-study basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just take it back to the body, feel into this core wound that you have within you. Like after you're done watching this or whatever, don't just go back to scrolling. Take a moment because you've listened to this and your body is like, I'm ready for you to see me in my naked rawness and my wound. I'm ready to show you my wound. And I think it's a good way of getting more intimate with yourself as well. You came in with this, you'll leave with this. It's with you through the whole journey. Can we, let it be part of this journey without it unconsciously running the show for you? Because even if you ignore it, it's still there and it's still working. It's still, the stuff is still happening. So bring your breath and your awareness to this place and just like know that you don't need to do anything with this. It's more like, how can I work with this wound, with this opening? And that's how you do your work in the world. Never mind the pearl and this doing. It's like the real work comes from the core. So let's not bypass that. Okay. Well, thanks for tuning in today on this Tuesday, and good luck venturing into this sacred wound.
Hmm.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.